All right. Hey, everybody. We're here today to talk to one of our PDM experts, Rohan Sanyal, and we're going to interview him specifically. He could talk on a whole variety of topics, but specifically, I have been running into the topic of ERP systems. I've got tons of questions. I've been working with other customers that have ERP systems. We have products that work with data management. What's the difference? Why does a company go for an ERP system? Why does a company go for a data management system? I have all these questions, and I thought, you know what? We've got the resources, we've got the experience, the expertise here in-house, and what we're going to do today is we're going to capture a live conversation between me and Rohan, where I'm going to start to learn about this topic because I know our customers want to know about this topic. If you're joining us from outside of our customer base, hey, welcome. We're so glad to have you. We are working with, we are SOLIDWORKS reseller, and we work with PDM, Manage, electrical, 3D experience now with the platform, all these kind of different aspects, and we will help your business kind of get to where you need to be. So first of all, Rohan, hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing very well. We are recording this at the end of the week, and after this, we get to have our weekend. So I am thankful for that.
As am I. As am I.
All right, sir. So you've been doing some research on some of this topic recently, is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, so for just setting the stage, okay, I just want, a quick summary of what an ERP system is.
I'd love to give one. So an ERP, the acronym actually stands for Enterprise Resource Planning.
Okay.
And essentially what it is a way to manage information about your enterprise in one centralized location. A good way of looking at it is sort of like an inward gaze into your own company to remove bottlenecks, inefficiencies, track supply and demand with your own productivity, all of that, so you have all that information in one place. So an ERP actually does quite a lot, but it's really an inward gaze into your own company.
Gotcha. So I know of some of the big names in ERP systems. One might be SAP.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a doubt. So that one is something where I remember at a company I was working at, they were going to implement SAP, and that meant that it totally changed the processes that were going on inside the company. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. The regulation, procedural documentation, and just general control of these processes and standards in your company, all of that in one centralized space, nothing like it.
So that is a super beneficial tool for a company to have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So let's go to the other side. We're gonna separate the topics, and then we're gonna join them back together, right? So let's look at the other side of the equation. So what is data management, and what is a data management versus an ERP system?
Sure, that is a very good question. It's actually something I'm asked quite a bit during my implementations and services and stuff like that. So PDM, data management, product data management, it's all, under one umbrella here. And realistically, data management is used to track, process, and record information that you have. Primarily, it's used commonly with, engineering data and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean it's limited to just engineering data. It can spread through multiple facets of your organization. And it's actually sort of a precursor and major component to PLM itself, because it's a product lifecycle management, and it's good at capturing and, managing that electronic information so that business processes, sales ideas, all of that, they can all be in one place. So it's a good way to track it.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the two separate ones, they sound similar.
Oh, they do.
Okay, what would be a difference between the two?
A good way to sort of differentiate between the two is an ERP system is very holistic in its approach to what you're managing in your own enterprise, like different procedural documentation, inventory management, keeping things at reduced costs for how much you're producing, all that sort of stuff. PDM is exemplary in managing the files that you have in-house for reuse everywhere, but in terms of inventory planning, making sure that like your costs and the production is in line, you may not have as clear a picture if you didn't have an ERP, and that's where it comes into play, and that's why they're actually such a great workforce.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask. So I'm a company that has an ERP system, and I use SolidWorks. I might use a multi-CAD package. So I have AutoCAD, a lot of legacy files in AutoCAD that I only touch when a order comes in that's broken, from something in the past. And I'm putting out 50 SolidWorks drawings, components a month, or something in that range. Why, if I have an ERP system and that's holistic, why do I really need SolidWorks PDM?
That is a fantastic question, and I'll tell you why. The reason being is if an ERP is a holistic approach to your internal processes and just data inside your company, what PDM does is it hones in on keeping your own proprietary information, like your product files, all electronic files relating to said product, in a place that's easy to search, easy to use. SolidWorks PDM is based off of a SQL database. So SQL or SQL, whichever school of thought you're from. You also need to understand that SQL is very good at managing plethora of data in one place, and PDM leverages that to allow your users to find the right files at the right time. So let's take your example, actually. You have a whole slew of legacy data that you have, right?
Yes.
So now let's say for a new product introduction, you want to take that revision, that design, move it forward, right?
Right.
The first question is, where is all the data, right? It could be in just like a centralized location. It could be in like Dropbox or something like that. Okay, sure. But if I wanted to look at the history, if I wanted to see where it's been used, if I wanted to see how it connects with all my other products and everything, it's a fair amount of searching and digging to do. PDM makes that quite a bit simpler, and that's why I feel like, yes, having an ERP is very useful, but PDM can take your company that next step forward to make sure that you're not scrambling around to bring all these different pieces of information together. We want to keep it centralized.
Fantastic. Okay, so both of them are powerful programs. You can have both inside of a company. They are both doing something different. Okay. Now, how is the information shared, or how do these programs work together?
It is very interesting, actually, how it works together. You could ask this question to a lot of other people, and they could say it's always very complicated and stuff like that. And I would actually argue that complexity doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. The complex nature just means that it is very true and tested, and it produces what you need. So how do they work together? Let's start with PDM, right? So to have PDM to work with an ERP system, PDM Professional, formerly known as Enterprise PDM, can utilize API to connect with an external SQL database. Because remember, PDM operates on its own SQL database from the get-go. So to connect these two databases, you can use API to then pull and push information from one house to the other. Where can this be useful? Part numbering schemes, bill of materials for inventory planning and everything like that. You can have these different functions that could live in either house, but they can be connected via API. So that's where, that's how all that plays out. It's just an add-in that you can just use.
So when you say API, I'm going to put that in some bigger or layman terms. So
sure.
Is it basically that you have the silo of product data, and then you've got the silo in an ERP system, and you need the bridge that connects them so that they can talk?
API.
There you go. Now, we've been talking a little bit about PDM Professional, but you also have some experience in PDM Premium, also known as PDM or SolidWorks Manage.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, so what could you do with SolidWorks Manage with an ERP system?
Oh, well, I hope you have a lot of time here. Get comfortable. So essentially, Manage is a very advanced record-based data management solution to what PDM already has to offer. Now, for those of you who are familiar with PDM or have used it or are currently using it, you'll know that it's very good at tracking and, version controlling your data, revision controlling it and everything. Where Manage takes it a step further is it applies it to a much more broader aspect to your company, where it could be project management, it could be for report generation, for BOM report generation, it could be for your tasks, timesheets. It's a whole slew of functions there, but I'm not going to go into all of them because trust me, there aren't enough hours in the day. However, with ERPs, Manage out of the box can connect to these other ERPs, like SAP, for example. That's the big selling point. So just to kind of like briefly elaborate on that API, that bridge we mentioned earlier between PDM and ERP, that API we would have to write, just code it, test it, make sure it works. Manage can do that out of the box. And I think that is
Okay, yeah. So if you've already made the investment in an ERP system, Manage could be an investment that would allow you to get more value out of both.
Unequivocally.
That's pretty cool. Okay. And I knew that Manage was a newer program, and when you said it like that, PDM Professional is still dealing with the SolidWorks data, but when you start adding in things like records or project management, all those kind of different things, that's just like that extra level of efficiency gained.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think I understand, I understand a little bit better when people say, hey, I've got an ERP system, it's going to take care of all that for me. When it comes to bills of materials though, so an ERP system, they work with bills of materials. You might order things through your ERP system, your inventory management, all these kind of different aspects. But bills of materials are also dealt with in PDM. How would that, interact with? So let's say somebody says, "Oh, I've got an ERP system. I don't need product data management." What would you say to that person if they were saying that?
Well, I would say, now let's think about this. How are you creating your bills of materials? Is it a manual process?
Excel.
Do you have to? Exactly. So you're using Excel. Okay.
Right.
So now, what if I told you that if using SolidWorks and PDM, those bills of materials can be created like that? Takes a click of a button. That's the key difference here. You want to be more efficient. Efficiency, is the cornerstone of running any good business or any enterprise. And PDM having built-in functionality to create these bills of materials in many different guises. It could be a Weldment bill of material, a cut list, a standard bill of material, you name it. Having that functionality there and then being able to do what's called an XML export to an ERP system, that's the bridge again. That's where that API bridge is coming into play. These rules to be able to push a bill of materials from SolidWorks, which is really good at, into an ERP, so that manual process is taken out completely.
So that XML, anybody with PDM Professional, they can already generate those XML and they could just upload that directly to their ERP system. If they wanted to, they could start off manually by doing it that way, right?
You absolutely can. You absolutely can.
So the next step that they might be able to do is invest in that bridge of an API to basically just make this an automatic process. When it reaches this state in your workflow, then this automatically sends the information to the ERP system. And even beyond that would have Manage, which is also managing all the processes and the project management and keeping track of it, because I've seen Manage. It creates lots of charts and visuals, right?
Absolutely, and it's I love the visual representation that Manage provides you with your data and your documents and dashboards. Personal favorite of mine with Manage. I've designed quite a few, and I love them. It's truly awesome.
Okay, so this has been fun. Let's wrap up with some practical anecdotes, because people, they'll need to go and do their own research. People these days, I think that that's wise. We are good resources, but do you have any examples of working with customers that have ERP systems?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how did they use them, or what was some of the ways that you saw them interact?
Absolutely. What I would say is with SAP seems to be the very common choice for an ERP. I've seen it quite a few times. I'm not saying that's the only choice, but it's a very common one.
Right.
And of the customers that I've seen using them, primarily actually it is with bill of material related information that they'd like to bridge between their PDM solution with their ERP. And then in conjunction with that, they'd also like to have like a part numbering scheme or an inventory planning scheme that works in tandem with the actual inventory they have. So all that information, instead of guesswork or like manual work to say like, we use this part from, our toolbox or anything like that, how much of it is left? What is that shop order going to look like? Would we even need one? Because of that gap, they can also keep all of that in track. And Manage is also a really good way of keeping that in track because of its record-based approach of keeping all of that in one place.
So I want to paint a picture here. Let me say we're in a top performing company. We've gotten all the value out of these two programs. Let's say all my inventory is managed by an ERP system.
Sure.
So I'm working as an engineer. I have completed my assembly. It has its bill of materials. It's got its drawings. And then I submit this to get approved. It gets approved. And then that triggers purchasing to get a PDF. Like we could automate that to send that. And then we could also automate it to send that bill of materials to the ERP system. And then the ERP system could check its inventory and what it needs to purchase and the vendor pricing and all that stuff. And purchasing buys all these different things. And then all the parts come in, right? And they got to be checked. I know of plenty of people who use the e-drawings preview of just the assembly, the exploded view, just to, in the back of the house to be able to look and see how things fit together. And you could check the bill of materials right there for what it was originally supposed to have in the SolidWorks model. And then you're also updating your ERP system. You have that complete, you have all those checks and balances where you're making sure that what you need is what you've got. Both systems are doing part of the work, and they're both keeping, so SolidWorks is doing what it's really good at, and then the ERP system is doing what it's really good at too. And that just seems like that's kind of the workflow we're talking about here, right?
Absolutely. It's sort of, we want it to be seamless, like a well-oiled machine. A little bit more well-oiled than that motorbike, apparently. It seems to be a little rattly. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. Yeah, that's sort of, we want to make it such that also it gets rid of the whole tribal knowledge aspect of what your business operates on, right? The whole thing of when someone has been at the company or the organization for quite some time, there's a standard way of doing things that they know, and that's fair. Transferring that information to new people coming into the company can get difficult, and it's very time consuming. However, if you have this joint task force of an ERP and a PDM system, a lot of that transfer of knowledge is actually already done the moment they boot up their computer, because based off of permissions, based off of procedural standards that are just ingrained into the software because it's so configurable, you just do the thing as it's supposed to be done, and then the software takes care of the rest of it. So it becomes more efficient. Scalability becomes almost like limitless in that sense. So that's one way I would look at it.
Yeah, definitely making the workers that we find more productive and efficient and valuable from day one.
Exactly.
I think that's a resource that if we tap into, I mean, that's a huge benefit to any company. I think that's it. I think that's a good place to stop for now, because ERP systems are huge. We could talk about them for a long time, and PDM systems. I mean, if you have one, you already know some of the benefits that we didn't even get a chance to talk about. We didn't even talk about permissions. We didn't even talk about some of the, like, you know, generating tasks and having all these, you know, documents created for you. But that's all part of the package too. So I think that this was a really great chance to learn about ERP systems. And when companies say, because ERP systems is sometimes an easy way of saying, you know, like, it's like the magic box. It's like, I've got an ERP system that will take care of that for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is a great tool, but it is a tool that could use this PDM or data management to work hand in hand with it. So, well, Rohan, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I had a lot of fun.
Me too. All right.